myth, the legend.
All right, so we're going to talk about programming for general population. The reason why I chose this is because most of our members are general population. Most of our people are overweight or they're slightly overweight and they want to lose weight. So this is geared towards weight loss. This could also be geared towards someone who has a goal of getting stronger, gaining muscle mass. So the goal is weight loss or weight gain or muscle gain. The biggest determinant of gaining or losing size is going to be what? Nutrition, exactly. That's what I tell my clients. So that takes that burden off of you and puts it on them. I tell my clients at the beginning, the biggest determinant of if you're going to gain or lose size is going to be what you eat and how much you eat. So make sure you make that clear to them in the beginning. But in terms of our programming, the general considerations here, primal movements, and to become very efficient with the primal movements. So there's 7 primal movements out there, 6 of them are in the PSP. What are those 7 movements?
Hinge, squat, push, pull, gate, squat,
Gate. There's one last one. Plank, anti-rotation, or the primal movement is rotation. So that's basically the staple of our program in terms of the big compound movements. That's what I would really encourage you to do, is train movements, don't train exercises. So focus on the movement you want to train, and then it gives you a lot more flexibility in how to do it. Another consideration is create a strong foundation of stability and mobility. If you skip this step, your client's going to be in pain and they're going to be injured. Just a matter of time. So make sure you don't skip that step. A good thing, so these are just some general principles to formulate your program. Bilateral to unilateral. So most movements you're going to start bilateral. This means both sides are working. And then eventually a way you can progress your program is to go to unilateral movements. And then there's 3 planes of movement. So I would encourage you to always start in the sagittal plane. It's like forward and back movement. That's the easiest way to move. That's the way most humans are used to moving. Frontal plane, what I would argue is the second easiest plane to move in. So usually the progression is going to be sagittal plane movement to frontal plane movement, and then eventually we want to get to transverse plane movement because we want to work all 3 planes of motion, build strength and stability in all 3 planes of motion. That keeps your client from prevented from being injured, and that helps them maximize their body's ability to do whatever they're trying to do. They're trying to get stronger. They're going to get a lot stronger and be able to make a lot more progress if you do these steps correctly. The last thing here is stability and range of motion determine progression and regression. So what that means is, one of my mentors used to always tell me, when you're looking at a client doing exercise, the way you decide if you need to progress it or regress it are these 2 things. Stability, so if you have your client doing a walking lunge down the turf, and they're like, every step they look like they're going to fall over. They don't have the stability to do that at that moment. So you would regress it and make it easier for them to execute. So give them some sort of balance assist. And then range of motion. So you see this all the time on the turf. Everyone wants to add weights to their lunges, and then they go down like an inch or 2. Like, this is not doing a whole lot for you. You're not getting the proper lengthening and shortening. You're not getting the proper muscle contraction you're looking for. So this is something to consider. Stability, range of motion. Those 2, you can look at a client move, and that'll help you determine if they're ready to be progressed, or actually we need to regress this. I skipped ahead too far for this person. So this big chart over here, this is Western periodization. So what that means is, this is the traditional way to progressively overload your client. So the whole base of resistance training is progressive overload. So can anyone explain what that means?
Making it harder. Like progressing over time, heavier weight.
Yeah, exactly. There's a story of a guy, he's a farmer, and he had a cow, I think. And he carried the cow up this mountain. And he started when the cow was a baby. And then he was able to carry the cow up to the mountain when the cow was full grown. So that kind of explains the principle of progressive overload. Each day, he was lifting more weight, and then his body adapts, the physiological adaptation occurs, which creates the ability to exert more force and be stronger. So this, you should know this pretty much by heart. Because if you don't know this, then like, what are you programming? Would be my question. Like, and this is based on NSCA, I will say that. So if you're a NASM, it's a little bit different in terms of how they organize this, but it's the same idea. So for the most part, you're gonna start every client in the endurance phase. It's high volume, low intensity. There's 2 to 4 sets of 15 plus exercises, and then you're going to do that for a circuit, and I'll get into these specific movements in just a minute. So we have the reps as one variable, then we have the tempo as another variable. With endurance, there's really no tempo. I just encourage my clients to control the movement, own the movement, and then they're going to get a lot more out of it and be a lot more stable once we get further along here. In terms of the intensity, so when I say the intensity of an exercise, what does that mean?
How hard it is.
Yeah, but let's be a little more scientific with our explanation. So the intensity is basically the percentage of a 1 rep max of an exercise. So if I'm looking at a squat, like a barbell squat, and I'm like, this squat is going to be 100% intensity, and I'll say I'm squatting 225 pounds, that should be my max, 225. So the intensity is not like, oh, this is a very fast-paced movement or something like that. The intensity is the weight and that percentage of your 1 rep max. So when you say the intensity of exercise, this is an important variable to be aware of because this determines everything else in a sense. The higher the intensity, the lower the volume. The lower the volume, the higher the intensity. So these are just things to consider. Does that make sense? Yeah. So with endurance, the intensity is relatively low, 50 to 70%, and then rest, less than 30 seconds. The next phase is hypertrophy. This is what almost everyone in the gym does all the time. 3 sets of 10 on everything. This is hypertrophy. The main purpose of this, or the main body physiological adaptation you're going to get from this is gaining muscle. You're building muscle mass on protein synthesis. So the variables look a little bit different here. We're going to get more volume. So it's the volume increases, the intensity increases, or the volume. So from here the volume decreases and the intensity increases. So we're going to go slow tempo. This is where you add in a lot of those slow negatives. You can add in the pauses. It's basically designed to, wherever they need the most work, wherever their weak points are, that's where you can focus on. If you have a client that their goal is to get to being able to do barbell back squats, they're a strength client, you're going to make sure that they're able to control, and they're struggling getting full range of motion, and they're struggling at the bottom specifically. I would throw a pause at the bottom in this phase. This is where we perfect the movement. When we get to here, it should be perfected already. If you skip this part, like I say, your client's going to be in pain, and they're going to be interested. So here, so with the intensity here, we're at 70 to 85%. A little more rest, 60 to 90 seconds, and then, I skipped one thing here. So down here, the equipment used in the endurance phase. The first thing I would use is body weight. Your body weight is a resistance. So most people out there can't really move their bodies that well. So I mean, that first month, you're mainly using body weight as the equipment. And then you're using exercise or pieces of equipment that allow them to execute the movement well. You can think about it like that. So if I want to teach someone how to squat properly, a goblet squat with a dumbbell or a kettlebell is one of the easiest ways to teach them how to execute that movement. I use cable resistance a lot because it's easier to create the right movement and get the right muscle activation compared to dumbbells. So, like a dumbbell single arm row. Like there's a lot of different ways you can do it here. If this was a bench or something, you can do it like that. It's a lot harder for someone to keep their shoulder down and back and get the right muscle activation here compared to if they're doing like a standing cable single arm row. They're able to keep their shoulders down, and to make it even easier, you could have them doing a seated cable single arm row or double arm row.
Now let me ask you, why is that important?
Why is it important to break this down?
Because there's different types of clients. There's like you talking about not missing a step or missing a stage, because then that's your retention at the end of the day. That's why Marcus is so good, because he goes through the steps and trains the right way.
Absolutely. Now, why is that endurance phase so important to use? You know, a cable or a machine or a dumbbell or a kettlebell. Why are those important compared to just what's up?
It creates foundation.
That's all that is right there. That endurance phase is their foundation, especially if they have no idea what to do or ever been to the gym before, right? If we can build their endurance, build the foundation there, then we're able to go into the next phase.
So what's the rest time like for endurance? You said less than 30 seconds?
Less than 30 seconds.
And how many reps and sets are you doing?
For endurance,
For endurance.
2 to 4 sets of 15 plus reps. So,
So it's high rep, or high reps.
yeah, high reps, low intensity. This is teaching your client how to move properly.
And it'll be like regular body weight, dumbbell, kettlebell type workouts.
Yeah, like I would start all body weight, and then once they can execute the movement properly, then add resistance.
Gotcha.
So a lot of the equipment here is going to be the same as you go over into hypertrophy. You might throw in a barbell here as well, but that's going to be mainly designed for your strength and power phases. So strength and power are pretty much the same in terms of the variables. You have 3 to 5 sets of 1 to 5 reps. There's no tempo with strength or power. With strength, your goal is just to move the weight to wherever you need to move it to. With power, your goal is to move that weight as fast as you possibly can. So with power, I would think of Dan. He's a power athlete. With strength, I would also think kind of more of Tanner. He does a lot of really heavy strength work. Dan does a lot of heavy power work. So those are the furthest progressions in this Western periodization. A lot of our clients will never get to these phases. They don't want to get to these phases. If you put them in these phases, they're going to get injured. They need to stay in these 2 phases. So do we have any questions on that?
There's
before I-
no tempo for strength?
No. Because, like, think about this. Say you're doing just say you're maxing out on deadlifts. When you go from the bottom to the top, doesn't matter how long it takes. If you think about power lifters.
Yeah, they're trying to get the weight up. They're trying to get the weight up at period, right?
Doesn't matter, yeah.
They don't care how fast it is. They don't care how slow it is. They
Yeah.
just want to get the weight up.
Exactly.
Now, are you doing super sensitive endurance or no?
That actually brings me to my next point. Everything is circuit based.
Why is this circuit based, Marcus?
Because time is money and money is time, and we
I'm
got
telling
nothing
you.
to waste. So if someone comes in here 2 to 3 times a week and say they spend an hour, that's 2 to 3 hours a week. There's so much that they need to do in that time. That if you're doing straight, I mean, there's time and a place for everything. If I have a client and their main goal is to get stronger and they're actually a strength client, the workout's gonna look, it's not gonna be a circuit. It's gonna be a main lift, it's gonna be straight sets, it's gonna be a supplemental lift, straight sets, and then it's gonna be the accessory work. So the programming does look way different there. The reason why circuits are good for us is because most of our clients are general population that want to lose a little bit around their belly, or they either have a lot of weight to lose, their weight loss, or they have a little bit of fat to lose, they want to tone, or they want to gain some muscle or gain some strength. This is going to help all of that. If you have a client that is a power lifter, Olympic lifter, an athlete, it might look a little different. But this is probably 85 to 90% of our
I was
clients.
just about to say, the percentage of people that come in here want to be endurance and hypertrophy. They just want to look good, feel good.
Yeah.
Now that other small 20% are going to be the athletes. You're going to have your power lifters. You're going to have bodybuilders and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So the percentage is different. And like if we were a gym like Legacy Barbell or Gorilla Bench, where these are athletes that are coming in for strength and power, those are 2 different things, right? From the endurance as well as strength, those are 2 different things. General population, like Marcus says, about 80%.
So if you are doing like straight, you said like this is all like circuits for each phase. So how are you doing the circuits that way you're not starting
So I would say as long, you probably will go to supersets then, and then as long as the first exercise doesn't affect the second exercise. I started improving my programming when I really understood that. Like an example, if you have someone do an overhead press or a push-up or anything, and then you go right into like a plank, the first exercise is affecting the second exercise negatively. Does that make sense, everyone?
Yeah, if I go in there and I'm sitting here trying to overhead press 225, and then I go right into a push-up, you think I'm gonna go back to 225 and try to do that?
Yeah.
There's no way. There's no way.
Yeah. So yeah, that would be what I would say is as long as if you do push-pull, it usually doesn't affect it. Like if you're doing, I would say, I mean, it would look a little different strength-wise once you get to a certain phase. It's gonna look different. It's gonna look different.
Corey makes fun of me all the time. All the time he makes fun of me with my whiteboard. But I'm in and out. I don't care.
Yeah, no, I feel you, man.
Hey, cool.
I feel you.
What was doing like 450
Yeah, but if you're doing a
today?
strength class, only 30 minutes, you're not getting a lot.
No, you're going to be focusing on
Yeah.
the strength like you said.
Yeah, what I would do is, I mean, it depends on which phase they're in. So, this is probably, for most people, this would be month 1, month 2, month 3, month 4. I mean, if they progress at the normal rate. So, once we get to here, it is going to look different. It's going to look different. Any questions so far? So, let's get into the movements. As you can see, these movements are very simple. Start very simple with these. We have a squat, a row, and then a stability exercise. So my first workout with everyone, I'm teaching them how to do pelvic tucks, and then I'm translating that into a dead bug. So now they know how to coordinate the muscles of their core, and then we can translate that into the compound movements. So this is the A circuit, a squat, a row, a pelvic tuck. If they can execute this, then we're going into the dead bugs. If they can't get the pelvic tucks, that's all we're working on there. We're going to do a set of 10 pelvic tucks. This motion is so important that I will take as long as I need to take on it. Because if you skip that step, they're never going to brace their core properly. They're always going to have an increased level of low back pain. The B circuit, we have a reverse lunge, a push-up, and then like a gait, march, carry type of exercise. So if we go back up here, we're looking at our considerations. Primal movements, check. Foundation of stability and mobility, check. We got the stability in here with the pelvic tucks and dead bugs, and then we have the march here. Bilateral or unilateral. I always start with the bilateral lower body exercise, and then I try to throw in the first unilateral in that first workout. So like a reverse lunge. And then we haven't started to progress to different planes of motion, and the stability and the range of motion of each of these is going to determine, do I need to add more resistance or take away more resistance? So with this circuit here, so month 1, we're starting in the endurance phase. This first circuit, we're going to do 15 bodyweight squats. I like the TRX. Actually, I love the TRX. It's probably one of my favorite pieces of equipment here. So I always start with like a TRX row if they're up to that ability level. But if they're not up to that ability level, we might start with a cable row. But it's going to be a bilateral row. So rows are horizontal, and then skip the head a little bit, but pulls are vertical. So that's just a little side note. So we got 15, 15, and then usually the volume is less here and just focus on the quality of movement, like say 10 reps. And then, so back up here to our variables, we have 30 seconds rest. So technically, you could start with 30 seconds here, 30 seconds here, 30 seconds here. So we're gonna do these back to back, and then we're gonna take a minute and a half rest at the end. That make sense? Or, if they're more conditioned, we do these 3 back to back to back, and then we take 30 seconds rest, and then we start right back at the top. Or what I tell my people, once they finish this third exercise, all right, that was a great round, ask how they feel, how the resistance felt, different things, and we need to make adjustments. And then, okay, we're gonna start back with the squats as soon as you're ready. As soon as you're ready, because you shouldn't just be sitting here just staring at each other. As soon as you're ready, we'll start back here. And then, after we do one round, we'll go into the next round. After the second round, you can look at them and judge how tired they're getting, but you always ask, so you should be asking this question over and over. After this first round, okay, how do those 3 exercises feel? Any pain, discomfort, they all feel pretty good, okay. Did it feel easy, did it feel challenging, or feel too difficult? And then you can also use a scale of 1 to 10, but I'll hold that for just a second. So then everything's good, okay? It felt like the right difficulty level with body weight. We're sticking with body weight. We're doing the second round, ask some of those same questions, okay? How do you feel on a scale from 1 to 10 now? 10 being extremely tired, like you're about to pass out. 1 being like, I could run a mile right now, run a marathon. They're gonna tell you everything you need to know, and then you make the adjustments. So if we do 2 rounds here, this is a 30-minute workout. If we do 2 rounds here, say we're like 15 minutes in, and they're like, oh man, I'm gassed. I'm like a 7 or 8. I know in my head, like, I mean, honestly, the 7 or 8 is the highest I want to work them up to. So I know we need to improve their endurance and their conditioning, but I also know that we're only going to do 2 rounds here. We're going to go ahead and skip to something else and try to get a few more movements in before we go into the next stuff. So the amount of volume will be determined on their perceived rate of exertion. You have to continue to ask your client how they feel. Scale from 1 to 10, it's a simple question, it gives you all the information you need. So say we got 2 rounds here, then we're going to come down here. They're already at 7 or 8, so I'm just going to say, okay, we're just going to try to do 1 set of these next few exercises. So I might take out the 3rd one, and it might just be 1 set of reverse lunges, 1 set of elevated pushes, and then we're going to stretch and loosen up. Any questions on that? Does that make sense, everyone? All right. So this is a 3-time-a-week client. I tell my clients that you should train at least 3 days a week, but the sweet spot is really 4 days a week. I've always gotten the best results personally training 4 days a week. The American Heart Association recommends 30 minutes of physical activity per day. So, 3 days a week should be a minimum. I tell my clients, you want to get the best results of your life, train 4 times a week, and we adjust the intensity. But this is based on 3 day a week. So this will be Monday. Ideally, this will be Wednesday. And then ideally, this will be Friday. They give us a recovery day in between. So let's say we have Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Day 2 is going to be dependent on how they feel. If they come in, okay, what's sore? How do you feel? Any pain? Anything? Any area in particular bothering you? Oh yeah, man, my legs are so I could barely sit down and stand up. Okay, so we can't do a lot of legs here. We have to figure something else out. This is where I would throw in whatever their weak points are. That's what I would target here. So say someone has really weak hips and their knees cave in on all their movements. Okay, we're going to spend an extra 15, 20 minutes here working on like sideways steps, translate that into single leg stability, translate that into however advanced they are, we can progress it. But this is kind of like based on how they feel. If their lower bodies, most people who have never trained this way, their legs are going to be really, really sore in the beginning. So I'll throw in more upper body, more core this day. But the 3rd day, we have different primal movements we gotta hit. There's 7 primal movements. My goal is to hit as many of them each workout. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This workout, we got hinge, we got press, which is a vertical push. Bird dog, another stability exercise, that's the A circuit. B circuit, another single leg exercise, step ups, a vertical pull ups, and then anti-rotation with the payload. So the same variables apply. We're doing 2 to 4 sets, 15 plus reps. We're resting for 30 to 90 seconds after the 3rd exercise. And then you continue to ask them how they feel, and then you kind of go from there. Any questions on that? Cool. Let me get one person to go through this for me. Whoever feels up to it.
I'll go.
All right. So, if you don't mind, I'll have you face this way. We'll start with squats. So we're starting with 15 bodyweight squats.
15?
Yep.
Trying to stretch them.
So, when you're training them, you want to basically make this movement perfect. There's so many things that you can coach them on to make it perfect. I always start at the ground and work our way up. So both of his feet he's maintaining ground contact from his big toe to the heel of his foot, and he's maintaining through the lateral out ball of his foot. His knees are tracking pretty well over his toes. He's getting a little bit above weight at the bottom, but we're not loaded, so that's not necessarily a big deal or anything. I would try to keep your core tighter at the bottom. So keep your core tight all the way through that, like that. So that would be something I would focus on with him. Is he needs a little more stability at the bottom of his squat.
And mobility, right?
No, you got mobility.
You have it.
You're getting past full range. But at that point, right where you cross past full range, you do bump. So that's just when you add load to it, you just want to make sure that you keep your core tight. You don't let because that loaded flexion is what could be creating injury. So right there, I mean, pretty proficient in his squat form. He's ready for the progression. He has the proper stability, full range of motion mobility as well, and he has the range of motion there. Then we're going to go into a row. Tight. We'll just use one of these up here.
Do you have any of your older clients who get like, because I was asking about it the other day, when you like correct their form and they forget the existing things?
Yeah.
Do they get like any like frustrated where it's like,
Some
"I'm not
do.
doing it"?
Some they'll get more frustrated at themselves, which I understand. But yeah, if they do get frustrated with me, I just tell them like, I can understand it's a lot, it's a lot doing this and me cueing you at the same time and you being tired and but I'm looking out for your best interests. I want to make sure you're pain free and injury free, and then achieve your goals, and then explain to them the why. Some people, as long as you explain the why, they'll trust it more. So we'll just come here and we'll do a set of rows. This one might. Does everyone know how to adjust these straps?
Yeah. The only thing I don't know how to do is put these yellow things on. How do you put
So,
these yellow things on to the?
What I do is I put it over,
And then you loop it.
and then I keep looping it over, and then the strap pulled through the middle, like that. So you can use this one, because having these at the right length is important, because otherwise you're not going to get the right muscle activation. So we'll go for 10 to 15. So there's a lot of things I can cue here as well. Try to straighten out your knees, straighten your body, nice straight line. So what we want here is we want scapular depression, shoulders down, and retraction, squeezing back. So he's getting those movements. That's the joint action that's occurring here. And then, aside from that, you want to keep your core tight. You don't want to see him hyperextend his back at the top. That's not what you want. But his form looks great there. Go on 15, then we'll do the pelvic tucks and the jet buzz. Yeah. So let's start with the pelvic tuck. Good. So how I teach clients how to do a pelvic tuck, relax, put some space between your low back, and then push down into my hand, push harder. You feel your core tighten, and you feel good. You feel your ribcage pull down. So that cue usually works for most people. Some people tell them that. So that's the movement that we have to do when we do a core exercise. And then, so from there, I want you to tuck your tailbone under more. Tuck your tail. Keep your legs out. No, keep them bent. Like that. Because when you do a pelvic, your pelvis, your hips is what should be tucking. So some people, they'll do it and just pull the rib down a little bit, but we want to actually see the pelvis tuck under. And then bring your knees up. Bring your hands flat to the ground. Put your knees up a little higher. Good. Pull into my hand. Pull hard. So keep that tension, and then reach one leg out. Hold your core tight, and then bring it right back. So the key here is that pelvic tuck. So we're going to do 5 each leg. If he loses the pelvic tuck, he's losing the core muscles. So I would start everyone here. Pushing down into the ground helps some people that have weaker core muscles maintain their pelvic tuck. And there's so many progressions you can do from here. So you can add the arms in, you can add resistance with the arms and the legs, you can add resistance with the hip flexors, which makes it really, really difficult. Cool.
You know if I have clients that like they struggle to breathe when they squeeze the core.
It's going to be like that at first because they're thinking too much. They're in that phase of learning where it's just all cognitive. But over time, they'll be able to do both. You just have to continue to cue them. So he went through that. How do you feel? Good. On a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being really, really tired. How do you feel?
Like a 4.
Cool. So that first round was too easy for him. I would progress it. I would add in, okay, we're gonna, with the squats, we're gonna add in a dumbbell or a kettlebell. We're gonna progress the rows. I want you to walk your feet out further. With the dead bugs, we're gonna add in a med ball at the top. And then we'll go from there. So with the second circuit, we only got a few minutes left, so I'll just go through it real quick. We got reverse lunges, push-ups, and then gait. So the main other point I just want you to understand is the progression month to month to month. So we're starting with body weight, then we're adding in dumbbells, kettlebells, machines, cable resistance, band resistance. And this month we're adding in. So you're showing your client the same movements with different pieces of equipment. That's how you give the variety. It's not that you're making up new exercises.
So this should be like the outline of their program?
Yes, you're doing the same movements. Resistance training is boring if you're doing it the right way. It's not fun. When people come in here like, I want fun workouts, I'm not the trainer for you. Because I know scientifically what works. All that fun shit ain't, like, it's not it. Like, it's just not. Like, working out is not fun. Like, when I was in college, I studied. It wasn't fun, but I studied to pass my exams. Like, you have to do things in life that everything's not going to be fun. But my main point here is, in this, here we're progressing the squat. So, if I was training Danny, we would be dumbbell, kettlebell, week 1, week 2, probably the whole month. We're building that volume, we're building the endurance, we're building up to 4 sets of 15 plus reps. And then in this phase, you're really conditioned, you can execute those primal movements perfectly, you're ready for heavier loading. We're gonna start with the barbell front squat. That's gonna be your squat variation. Then we're gonna add in, I like squats, front squats and pull variations. So probably maybe a pull up here, we'll keep the dead bug, and then we'll go walking lunges as your next progression. You're doing push-ups on the ground, so we might add resistance, so we're doing a slower tempo. And then we're adding, we started with the double arm carry march, now we're going single arm. And then here, we're progressing the hinge. So for you, we started with dumbbells, kettlebells here, perfecting that hinge. Now here, we're working with the barbell. So we have barbell RDLs, barbell overhead press, and then a stability exercise, single exercise with the step-ups. Wherever you load the weight really matters. So if you're doing a step up here, like here, is the easiest way to hold weights. Once you bring them up here, it's harder. Your upper back has to be stronger, your core has to be stronger. When you go from bilateral to unilateral load, it requires even more stability. If you're stepping up with your right leg and you have the weight on your left, the weight's pulling you this way, it's going to increase the muscle activation of this side to keep the knee out. So if you have a person that their knee caves in, this would actually be a good variation for them because it's going to force this hip to keep the knee out, and the opposite on the other side. So those are just different things with how you load an exercise can get very intentional. And then down here to month 3. So say he's young, he's athletic, he wants to get to these strength and power phases, he wants to build his max in those compound lifts. We're going to start our first strength program, probably month 2 or 3, depending on how many times he trains with me. And then we're going to do three sets of 5, like a 5-3-1 basic strength program to start. We're going to start with either, if he's perfected the barbell front squats, we might go into the back squats here, or we might start our strength program with the front squats, depending on those things. But then we're continuing to progress here. So you start, like away with the cables, you can progress single arm row, anti-rotation, single arm row rotation. So there's a lot of scientific reasoning behind that, but those are just different ways you can progress. In this B circuit, lateral lunge. So now we're moving in the frontal plane. We have, and let's skip over here, throwing a rotation. So now we're moving towards the transverse plane. So these are general principles that basically determine your program. If you have any questions, You can ask now. If you think of them and want to send them later to me in the chat or something, just let me know. But if you start to use these guiding principles, you're going to see how much of a difference maker and game changer it is for your clients. Like, this is the way to go right here.
What do you mean by A1, A2, A3?
That's just the first circuit. So a circuit is 3+ exercises. So this could be 1A, 1B, 1C.
One circuit.
Yeah. Like we're doing these 3 consecutively and then resting at the end.
So by month 3, they should already have the foundation down pat, right?
Depends.
How many times?
Everyone's
So
different.
why doesn't you have a client that by month 3 is still not, their foundation isn't?
I have a lot of them like that. Older time, injuries, different medical conditions. So it really, really depends. I would say don't rush it. As long as they're going to train with you.
No, yeah, I get it.
Yeah. This is ideally.
And you emphasize that to them, like, it's
Yeah.
gonna take time, like,
Yeah.
the foundation phases.
We're in it for the long haul. And if you use these guiding principles, you always have a continuation of the progressions. There's no point in the training that the client starts to think, I can do this on my own. Because you can't do this on your own. You don't even know the next progression. You don't know how to get there. You understand that there's a need to get there, but you don't know how to get there. So these are the ways that you just there's other things too, but programming is important. Like, you should give your clients random exercise, throw them on machines, they're not gonna stay.
Yeah.
So.
Plus, even when you reach the end, it's not the end. You just double back.
Yeah.
And restart it all over again. So it's really
Exactly.
not like they don't need that power.
Yeah.
You go right back to it there and do it.
Yeah.
It's a whole other block.
Yeah, because you can't stay here too long.
Absolutely.
This is like 1 month, 2 month, 3 month, cycle back.
Yep.
Deload, 1 month, 2 month, 3 month. There's a lot of different ways. Thank you. Any questions? Let me know. Always here to help.
Me and Sarah, Sarah Cam's candidate, she put it in the chat. So.
Cool.